Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
This is Sports Card Nation.
What is up? John Newman, Sports Card Nation, episode 102. Glad to be back. We have a great guest this week, and the guest we have this week will be back next week as well. Had a great conversation with Ivan Lovegren, the one half of the dynamic duo that is GoGTS Live on Thursday nights. We've had Rob Bertrand on the show already, and finally we got Ivan to join us. I had a great conversation. Went long, and so we decided we're going to do it in two parts. The first part will air on this episode, and the second part will air on episode 103. So a double dose of Ivan this week and next week. And we talked about a lot of things. Graded cards, state of the hobby, negativity in the hobby. And so over the course of the next two shows, over the next two Fridays, you're going to hear all the interesting things Ivan had to say. A great conversation, very candid on both parts. And, we probably could have went even longer, but, there is life outside the hobby, so we had to wrap it up. But again, great convo, and rather than make one giant 2-hour episode, I didn't want to do that, so I will break it up over two episodes. It'll be easier to consume, more interesting that way, and so was happy to have Ivan finally on Sports Card Nation. I think you'll appreciate it as much as I did. So with that being said, let's get this thing underway.
Yeah! Kick it!
Time for this week's
Incoming!
product releases. All right, kind of front end of the week's kind of quiet. We have nothing till Wednesday, then 5 items. On Wednesday, November 25th, you have 2020 Panini Flawless Baseball. You have 2020 TriStar Hidden Treasures Series 11 Auto Baseball Box. Also, 2020 Panini Impeccable Football. And 2019-20 Panini 1 and Panini 1 Basketball. Also on the 25th, 2020 Topps Chrome Black Baseball. That's a product that looks intriguing. It's got a nice look to it. Hopefully I might be able to get some of that. And then on the 27th, 2019-20 Hoops Premium Stock Hobby Hybrid Basketball. So continuing the no shortage of basketball products. There you go. So that's the week of new releases. About 8 to 9 items for your choosing.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast. Now on tons of platforms including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Listened to in 44 different countries globally, Sports Card Nation is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, our awesome guests on the show, and our tremendous sponsors making us what we are today. Remember, without you, there's no us.
It's time for What's Cracking. Topps has produced another offshoot off its flagship program.
For Pete's sake!
This time it's the mini set, which they released in 35 card packs online. $24.99 was that price, as you can expect. Parallels are also part of that program. These are the really smaller cards. I don't have any of these. I know this is not the first time they've done them. The product has sold out. So, we complain, Topps is making too many products, but listen, they're selling it out. What do you expect them to do? Upper Deck Series 1 hockey is live. As a Ranger fan, I was hoping to acquire some Alex Lafreniere Young Guns, but those things are going insane. They're already selling raw for high 300s, low 400s already. I know he's the number one pick. He's he's a very good player, but some people are actually questioning how good he actually might be, and so that price tag is. I'm not going to lie, I could buy one, obviously, but I'm not going to pay that. I mean, for that kind of money, I could buy a Connor McDavid Young Gun and, someone who's established. So I'll be opening some of that product, so hopefully I pull one, because that's probably the only way at the moment I'm going to get it. I hope as a Ranger fan, a little personal hobby here, but, with his stuff going so incredibly high, maybe Capo Caco stuff will come down and be more obtainable, because I still like him and they're buying him up as well. And he didn't have a great rookie season, so his prices have come down, and so I'll continue to buy those. But man, Series 1 hockey in the boxes are starting to go up in price too. So if you're going to get them, now's your chance before hockey season starts. Panini has announced they will be honoring all the Kobe autograph redemptions that they have in stock. If you have a Kobe autograph redemption for a product or card that they do not have in stock, you will be receiving a special 6-card set. 5 of the cards will be special branded snakeskin parallels that just online only for this promotion, and the 6th card will be a Kobe card from their 48 card Kobe in memoriam set. And so you're not going to get nothing. If they have the Kobe autograph, they're going to get that to you, and if they don't, you're going to get that 6 card special edition only online for Kobe redemptions, I'm assuming, in place of that. So good on Panini. Good job by them to make the best of that situation. We bag on these companies a lot, and deservedly so. They usually shoot themselves in the foot, but we have to also got to give credit when they do something to stand up. So good on Panini. There is a new entrant into the fractional shares market. This new company doesn't do just cards, but cards are a part of what they offer. The new company is called Otis, O-T-I-S. And speaking of the fractional share market, Collectible, which I have some $100 on that platform. They just signed an exclusive deal with Sports Immortals that's owned by Joel Platt, who has 1 million items of incredible sports memorabilia, and so some of those items are going to go onto the Collectible platform. Going back to the new company, Otis, I've got $100 on Rally, I've got $100 on Collectible. I think I'm going to stay within those two platforms for now. I'm not looking to try every one that comes out. I kind of just testing the waters, dipping my toe into the pool, if you will. And if I haven't even decided if it's something I'm going to continue to do, but if so, I'm probably going to do it with one of those two companies. Speaking of that, I did get some correspondence from Collectible. I have to provide my social security number. If I have a tax ID number, which I do, I have to provide that. and it's because they're licensed by the SEC. So, these are legit. I know we talk about them, but these are legit. They have rules they have to follow. And fractional share stuff, that's either going to stick around for the long haul, or we'll know in the next year or two if the hobby just won't accept it. If you're asking me to pick what happens, I think they're going to be around for the long haul. It's going to be like, grading. Some people like it and participate in it, like myself, and some people don't. I think fractional shares are going to kind of fit that niche on a lower scale. I think, a lot of people do graded cards. I don't think a lot of people are going to do fractional shares, but they don't necessarily need a lot of people. They just need people who love it or are passionate about it, and to sell those offerings out. So if you're a semi-regular listener of this program, you know about the two 1947 bond-bred Jackie Robinsons that I facilitated here from a local person named Carolyn. Got her to get those graded, and then I was able to facilitate those two cards going to Golden's auctions. They wound up grading out at a 3.5 and a 4 from SGC. Golden Auctions took them. Those auctions have closed, and happy to say for her, looks like they combined for $6,000 final bids. Believe it or not, the 3.5 graded card went for more money than the 4, but I believe there's different scarcity levels to certain cards. So I'm going to guess that that card out of the two was the harder to find. So congratulations to Carolyn. If there are any further updates to this story, I'll make sure to mention them on this show. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. They give you the tools that are needed to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And they distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast. It's why I use it and why you should too. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman. I know you're in there.
Hello, Jerry. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. All right, today's question comes from Twitter. Red Hills Collectibles asked me, let me read it. I hope you don't mind me bugging you with a few questions. I'm trying to stay on the right side of the law as far as taxes are concerned. I am struggling how to best track my inventory. How do you handle yours? And how do you handle your sales to keep track of that as well? So, you hear me talk about the Newman Sports Card side of things here on Sports Card Nation, Red Hills Collectibles. There's obviously a listener to the show, and he's heard me talk about me selling stuff on the Newman side. And he's asking me, how do I handle inventory? How do I track sales? He's obviously a seller as well. He's looking for some tips. So, good question. I'm going to share some of what I do. As far as new inventory, I obviously catalog it. I take pictures. Many of those pictures I keep on my phone, but in the cloud, so it doesn't take up a lot of space in my phone. And the nice thing is having them on your phone, as I do, is I can zip them out. Someone says, hey, you have this or you have that. I can kind of zip them out. I tag every photo. So if on my phone, if I type in a tag, if I type in Mike Trout in my search bar, my photos album, all my Mike Trout pictures will come up of my inventory. And so I can kind of boom, zip real quick, have my really anything of significance in pictures. Now I have a lot of Mike Trout cards that are $1 to $5. Those are in my player boxes. Those aren't going to come up in picture form, but anything of double digit or higher will, and rather quickly. So I catalog them. Then I decide where that new inventory is going to get listed. Is it going to go on eBay? Is it going to go on ComC, Star Stock? Obviously, if it goes in the ComC, Star Stock, that's going to be mailed to them. It's not going to be in my possession anymore. And so, or is it going to go on my website? If it's going to go on my website, I have to list it on my website as well, upload the picture. And so a lot of, there's a lot of choices to where my stuff gets listed. So it's sort of a lot of gears turning, but I've streamlined the process. It doesn't take me as long as it once did as technology gets better. I use my phone. I always, my wife said, man, you do so much stuff with your phone. I'm like, yeah, it's really a mini computer, right? Our phones are mini computers now. A little shout out to, I have a new phone that it's only a couple weeks old. I used to be an iPhone guy. My family is an iPhone family, and I've defected. I've left the iPhone world. I went to the Samsung Galaxy world for a couple years, and now I even left the Galaxy world with my latest phone, which is a Motorola Razr, American company. And if you remember the Razr, that was one of my first non-brick cell phones back in 2004. That thin, flip phone, if you will, kind of closed up. Well, the 2020 version, the 5G version, there's two versions. Their first version kind of stunk, and they got the second version right. The Razr 5G, it is a flip phone, double screen. It's actually not a flip phone, it's a foldable phone. So the screen literally folds, and there's a screen on the outside as well. I think I posted a post on Twitter a couple weeks back. I was so impressed. I love this phone. Motorola, if you want to pay me for saying that, because you're not, I'm open to it, but I'm just being honest. Probably my favorite phone right now I've ever had. I love this thing, and I love it. So folds up, fits right in my pocket, smaller than my wallet when I do that. All right, back to the selling point of cards. So that I kind of went over how I catalog and inventory. Then I decide if that card's for sale, where's it going to be for sale on? Multiple platforms. Am I sending it to the ComC, Star Stock, and not having it on site, and all that. Now, he also asked in the same question, how do I track my sales? Now, for years, I used Excel spreadsheets, but recently I switched over to an app called, I believe it's called Budget Watch, and again, right on my phone. And so anytime a sale comes through, it goes right, I can put it right onto Budget Watch, either a sale or an expense. If I buy something, I put it in there. I label everything. It's got everything down by wax, singles. It categorizes everything, and then I do it monthly because I do all my stuff monthly, and at the end of the month I can upload the report to my computer from my phone, print it out, do all that good stuff. And so it gets cataloged or entered. All sales and purchases get entered through my phone, this app called Budget Watch, and then I put it into printed form. I get it on my computer, and that I've just started using it, so I'm only a couple months in. I'm assuming at the end of the year it's going to kind of give me a yearly total for tax purposes, and that's how I track all my sales and expenses. It does all the addition and subtraction for me, rather than like Excel. It's just a different form. I mean, all these programs and apps are fairly similar. This just is a little more streamlined. It's just a couple key presses and the transactions logged, and I don't waste a lot of time, and I keep going. I'm all about time. If you hear me on Hobby Quick Hits or heard me on this show, I am trying to economize my time as best I can. Content creation, hobby-wise, there's a lot of things I want to do, and I want to do them. I want to enjoy them. I'm not trying to rush everything and not enjoy the moments, but I also don't want to get lost in time as well. And so all these apps and techniques and strategies are to economize my time as best I can. If you want to hear more about that, check out my smaller show, Hobby Quick Hits. Shameless plug there. I talk about time strategies in a couple episodes on that show as well, where we tackle one sort of topic head on. So if you want more specifics about time-wise, you can check it out there. Maybe this is a future episode on Hobby Quick Hits, talking about how I track sales, how I catalog my stuff. But we'll leave that for another day. So thank you, Red Hills Collectibles, for the question. I don't know if anyone else was wondering that, but there's the answers. There you go.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Commence interview sequence.
Real happy to have my next guest on the One of One card shop line. I don't know why it took this long. I don't know whose fault it is, mine or this gentleman's. He's one half of the dynamic duo from GoGTS Live on Thursday nights. I know I try to catch as many as I can. Thursday can be a little busy for me, but no excuses. I try to get as many as I can. He probably doesn't need an introduction. He's pretty well known in the hobby. Glad to have him finally on Sports Card Nation. Welcome, Ivan Lovegren.
Hey, John. Very humbled to be here. I appreciate you reaching out and saying, hey, how do we schedule this? And I think it was like 2 months ago, and we looked at schedules and played some schedule tag, but we found a time. So happy to be here. And I love what you say actually about like probably doesn't need an introduction. I experienced this week. There's so many people in the hobby that there's always the need for that. There's so many new people out there, and that's sort of at the core of my place in the hobby. Is I just like seeing it grow, and I like seeing the community. So thank you for the introduction. If you did not know me already,
well, I do for sure, and I got to meet you obviously at the last national that we got to attend in Chicago 2 years ago. Now, which was a lot of fun. Believe it or not, my first one ever. For being in the hobby 30-something years, it's I'm almost embarrassed to admit that.
Especially as an East Coast hobby guy, right? Where's home for you?
I'm originally from New York City, and now I'm in Syracuse, New York, so Central New York.
Yeah,
and,
so at least Atlantic City Nationals shouldn't have been too bad for you.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know why. I always just viewed it, Ivan, and probably wrongly, but I always viewed it as just a gigantic card show. And so I was doing a lot of shows as a dealer, and I just said, it's a bigger show. You know, it's cool. And it just didn't really put it on my list like I have to go. And it wasn't until getting into really content creation that I did. And honestly, you know, on the plane ride to Chicago, you know, people were telling me what it's like, and you never being there, you sort of have a vision in your mind what you think it's going to be like, and then you get there. And I remember walking in, I roomed with Marlon, Sparty Hawk Cachet, and you know, I remember walking in. You know, he met me at the hotel. I put my bags in. He's like, "Let's go." And I remember walking in, and like whatever I thought it was obviously beyond that. And I got there on Thursday, so I was there all through Sunday. So Thursday didn't count. I kind of came in late, so it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you know, I had kind of a list of. I had a couple interviews scheduled. I had some, you know, you want to meet people that you haven't met in person, like yourself. And I had to scramble to even get it done. And you could argue I probably didn't get it really done.
I was just going to ask, did you end up buying a card at that 5-day card show?
Yeah, I did. And I used strategy that I would normally use at a normal card show where it's more than one day, a 3-day show where in local areas or regional, you kind of wait to that last day when people are like want to take less back, or maybe the show wasn't great and they're lowering their prices a little bit more. Listen, I'm not picking on a dealer when I say that. I set up at shows. I know that feeling sometimes. And so from being on both sides of the table. And so I did buy most of the stuff I bought was Sunday. The first day, Friday, Ivan, I just kind of walked around and just soaked it all in. People would, which was kind of cool. People would bump into me and recognize me. Hey, are you John Newman? Like I didn't think like, yeah, I am, I guess, and I think I met you that day on Friday and Rob. And so Friday was just sort of kind of, walk around, meet people, talk to people, a little bit. Saturday, I had 2 interviews scheduled on site, which I did. And then Sunday was like, I didn't really have anything planned. It was just look at tables, buy some stuff, and then get ready to, head back home. And again, whatever I thought it was going to be, it was beyond that. And like I said, I've been in the hobby a long time. So
I know some of our first messages, you were unveiling card shop owner knowledge from like the early 90s, late 80s. You've been prospecting football players, scouting football players for, about as long as I've been alive. You started when you were 11, right?
Let's cut to the chase. I'm old. What?
I was saying you started when you were like 10, right?
I started when I was 7 in 1979. So if you do math, you can minus 2020 in 1972 and figure out I'm 47 years old. I started at 7. I did my first show as a legitimate sales tax collector at age 15, and I opened my first store at age 20. And so, I guess you would say I've been around the block. And that's the crazy thing, going to the first national in 2019. It took.
So let me ask you this, John.
Yeah.
So I know quite a few younger guys, younger than me, that had a bit more freedom. I've got kids too, so that can stop you from being too crazy entrepreneurial, who have opened card shops in this current environment, new money. What type of advice would you have for somebody that is in their 20s, maybe even early 30s, and is just starting a card shop with what you've seen going through so many industry cycles yourself?
Yeah, I love the question. And I actually have talked about this. What I did, I had the store from 1990 to 1995. What worked for me in those 5 years would not translate in current times. I would probably, number one, not last 5 years. And,
what did work for you back then? What was it like back then?
It's a different hobby. I mean, we didn't have breaking then. We didn't. Grading was really sort of in its infancy stages, not what we know it as today. What I would just know in the hobby, though, I think that the blueprint, if there is such a thing, it's you got to diversify. You can't, one of my flaws, one of the reasons, I get asked, my son asked me, my son's 20, he said, Dad, would you ever open a card store again? And I said, I said this on the show too. It'd have to be probably not here in Syracuse. I don't know if the market's good. I'm only an hour and 5 minutes from Cooperstown. So maybe in that, maybe if I bought, a building with a storefront downstairs and a livable space where I could commute or stay there 3 or 4 days and come home, maybe under that where you got built in, people are coming to the town. It's a tourist town. I would, but one of my flaws, Ivan, I don't know, how you respond to this. I like what I like. I like, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, that stuff, soccer cards are exploding. I know nothing about those, and I probably wouldn't. I don't like to carry something that I can't talk about or explain. So as a store, my advice, you have to diversify. You got to carry all that stuff. So no matter who walks through your door, you got all your bases covered. I would probably be reluctant to a flaw because I could learn. Don't get me wrong. We can all learn about something we don't know. But I don't know if I know this sounds terrible. Maybe it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, me being the old dog. I don't know if I want to learn it. Like, I'm not a soccer fan. I don't, my son's 20. Maybe if he was younger.
So here's where I would challenge you, John. I'm going to change your business model right now. I feel like it's actually a little bit of an old business model saying, well, I would go to Cooperstown and focus in there. What I'm seeing in Southern California and with my Twitter is that there is so much of the collector base is not as much you anymore, and even not as much me as it is those people that are, that very next generation and the money they have. So I just did a quick Google search while you were talking for best tech startups in Syracuse. And from what I can see on Google, you would know better than me, but it seems like there's a decent number of tech startups in Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, we have
innovation and young people coming into work in these higher profit jobs. Is
yeah,
that right?
I'm literally 2 blocks down the street from Lockheed Martin, which has a major defense contract. They do sonar, radar, all sorts of stuff for the military. They always have signs out hiring engineers, and so it's a big plant. It's a big, you got to get, if you go there, you got to get through the guard station and all that. One of the previous jobs I had, I actually delivered on that site, and so you had to go right through the. So I don't know how many people they actually employ. Probably, just guessing without any real solid numbers, probably at least 1,000 people in that complex. I mean, they've got probably 20 buildings all.
So I've got your card shop strategy and anyone listening's card shop strategy. And it's easy to give this advice because I don't have to do it myself. I'm not building a card shop in LA. The millionaires already did up on Hollywood Boulevard. It looks beautiful. If you've seen that, Dan Fleischman and Steve Aoki.
Yeah, I did see that
coming out next week. So that's great. But I saw one of the other successful card shops here in LA. I hope they don't mind. I'm going to throw it out there. But if you just analyze it easily, the Bullpen.
Yep.
So they are in an area where there's some aviation companies, actually. They moved from a more average area, more typical area, down to close to the airport, slightly industrial area, but also slightly pretty heavy tech startup area. And they are right next door to a ramen shop. And if you know the millennials, I am on the cusp of that, so don't be offended, millennials. They love lunch at the ramen shop. So you got these guys that are 29, 32, 33 on their lunch break, and they walk by a card store to get to the ramen shop. And they walk in and they don't bat an eyelash at spending $20 on a card that you or I would haggle for $6 on eBay. Yeah. Because we do know that's part of the card shop thing is there is the markup. There's you're getting it right there. Yeah. That sort of thing. But they see a Clayton Kershaw card, a triple threads that we would pay $6 for, relic, and they'll pay $20 without questioning, and then ask about this, and they'll mention breaks and the hits and all that stuff and get them in. So 1, location. Get a location with foot traffic that follows that demographic. And then 2, John, to your second point, is just hire an associate who understands soccer, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering.
True.
You don't need to know it all because you can't.
Yeah. You're right. One of the stores back when I had my store, I was friendly with them. They were about 20 miles away, and I knew them. We actually did fantasy leagues together, and they did all the sports, but they had like 4 different guys. One guy did baseball, and they each had their showcases, and so it kind of piggybacking right off what you said, and this is in the 90s too. So, exactly. You can always sort of sublease your store with someone who's has an expertise in that. I think another thing too, besides the products you carry, I think you got to offer services, whether it's grading submissions, breaking itself, and all those things. The more you can offer, the more you can get for someone to walk in that door, no matter what they're looking for in the hobby. I mean, that's not rocket science. That's just common business sense.
It's not. How many aren't doing it though?
Yeah, I think people rush in. I think sometimes people look at what the rent costs and not, like you said, where it is. And maybe that rent is a little lower because of the location. And, I don't care what business you're in, location's probably number one on that list when you're going down that list. And, it's key. And so, cheap rent is great, but it's got to be more than that. And, I'm a little older too, and so I kind of, I'm not saying I would never say never, but if I did it too, I told this to my son too, Ivan. If I did it, I'd like it. We could both do it, something together. So eventually, if it happens, it's going to be something like that, something we can share, and at least have some, fun with it and that respect.
Well, that's something I've seen. If you're familiar with Jaspy's Hobbyland, they're pretty well known, a pretty huge breaker. They recently opened a shop after years as being one of the first, preeminent breakers. It is father-son. Father has been in the industry in many capacities, worked for Topps, worked for Beckett, private buyer, all kinds of interesting stories there. And the son was a collector. And so they said, hey, let's do this business together. And so it's really cool seeing Nick as the son. And it really is like you walk into the shop and it's his shop. It's kind of cool. But they definitely work their butts off to build that. So I don't know. Is this what you wanted to talk about?
I'm talking. Listen,
that's what happens when you don't.
This is the beauty of Sports Card Nation is the conversations just go where they go and whatnot. So
it's just me and you catching up.
Yeah, that's what it really is. And I always get emails or DMs saying, people love that. But when I do interviews, they almost feel like they're eavesdropping at a bar top or a restaurant table, obviously where they can't necessarily talk, but they feel it. And they said they love that aspect. And so that's how I've just always done it. I'm not a professionally trained, journalist, so to speak. I did, do some high school sports in high school as far as with the paper and playing it, but that's about as close to a journalist as I'll get other than learning on the fly here. Going to step aside for a quick break, but we'll be back with more with Ivan. One of One Card Shop offers a tremendous breaking experience, great customer service, and they're constantly pulling fire. Steve and his family take care of you like one of their own and treat you right. Anyone can break, but no one treats you like One of One. Come check them out on Instagram at one_of_one_card_shop. For all the hot breaks, get a gold mailer headed your way. Sports Card Nation is back with Ivan Lovegren. Something happened I want to talk about, and definitely thought of you when I saw a tweet before we came on today, and I spoke to you a little bit before we hit record. I saw, whether it's the gorilla in the room or but there's a lot of negativity in the hobby. I choose kind of to avoid it and drive around it as much as I can. I've even cut down my Twitter time that I just read stuff because of it. I hate to say it, but I did catch this tweet just before I came on with you, and it was, I won't mention names just to protect whoever. I mean, I don't care, but basically the tweet was saying, podcasts and shows that give away a lot of giveaways and prizes, they're only doing it to get followers and listens. And it really struck me, and I thought of both of us, and not to be conceited, I'm just being honest. GoGTS, you guys give away a lot of stuff on Thursday nights. I give away a lot of stuff on this show as well each week. We have some sponsors that allow us and afford us that opportunity. I'm not going to apologize for giving someone something for free. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so when I saw that tweet, I just thought, man, is that where we are in the hobby where, we're complaining that someone's giving something else, no questions asked. And there's when I don't want to speak for you, you're right here. I'll let you answer that as well. When I give something away, a lot of times I don't know what the percentage is. There's probably a good percentage. That person may not even listen to the show. They may have just retweeted, and the app that I use to randomly pick that retweet picks them. It is what it is. I do things up above board, and and I gave away $100 2 weeks ago. There was 140 retweets to get for someone to win that, and the show gets about 10 times more downloads per week than that. So it's not like I'm getting 140 downloads, and they're all the people trying to get the $100. And when I read that, just to kind of turn the ball over to you, it just I thought of both of us, if and I don't mean any disrespect to any other shows that do giveaways too. I think it's a great thing that if you do it 1 or you do 10, whatever. But like, why are we complaining, or why are we painting shows or podcasts that do that, with a negative brush? Like,
that's a can of worms there. Because I thought you were going to ask a different question, but you just said why. Why? That's so much bigger. So first off, the argument itself is very ignorant in the sense of, the one thing I can say, I mentioned at the beginning, I still don't understand how I got 16,000 followers that engage with me on Twitter. Because that's the big thing, is it's a community. It's my community. My followers are my community. The hobby is the community I belong to. I had somebody the other day tell me in a message like, wow, man, you followed me when I was first starting out and it means so much to me. And I'm like, no, you mean as much. You buy as much in the hobby as I do. My conversation doesn't matter if no one's listening to it. If nobody's talking back, then if you follow me long enough, I'm not good at this.
Yeah, we might get off at a different exit there, but
I bought Blake Bortles. I was convinced that he was underrated.
Oh, you're talking about hobby wise. All right.
Like hobby. Like,
listen, everyone has a Blake Bortles that I have more than one of those stories.
Yeah.
So,
but so for me, it is one. It's a community. And I'm very blessed that I've got this many people in my community. I always tell the story about part of my getting into, like, what hobby Twitter has been for me was, when we were young, everyone collected, but nobody in my 6 blocks in Omaha, Nebraska cared as much as I did. There was the kid next door who's had more money. His parents were divorced and he had, 2 sources of income, and he had all the good cards in a shoebox. I was like, how could the kid that has all that have them in a shoebox when I'm buying Donruss packs because I can't afford Upper Deck in 1990, 89. I didn't open a pack of 89 Upper Deck, I think, until like 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, actually, it was, I was on Pack Geek. I'm sure that Jeff,
Jeff.
Great hobby content creator. And he, actually said, like, hey, we're going to open a pack of 89 Upper Deck, and I'm opening them. And unlike a lot of cards from that era, they were fresh. Like, I turned a card over and saw a picture on the back I'd never seen of a player I really liked, because there was 2 pictures on the cards then. I'm like, you know what? It actually hit me. Like, I don't know this set like I know 1990 Donruss. Like, this is fresh for me.
Yeah.
Long story long, because I didn't have a lot of money growing up. We had to work really hard for what we did have. The hobby was a luxury and was fun. That said, yes, everybody collected. Nobody cared like I did. I had binders. I had top loaders. I read Beckett, front to back, over and over and over multiple times. Nobody else in my neighborhood of everybody collected like that. Fast forward all these years, I get on Twitter in the hobby collecting community, and I start meeting people that care more than I do. And they weren't around Omaha, Nebraska, North Omaha, the Benson area where I grew up. They weren't around then. So I love that the hobby community allows me to meet people smarter than me, more passionate than me, with more education than me, with better perspective than me. That's what Twitter is to me. That's what the community is. Am I very blessed that, especially in the sports card boom, I've been able to make money through it? Yeah, that's a good blessing. But basically, I hate all forms of gatekeeping, in the sense of things that, people think are bad. All this new money coming in is bad. New buyers, flippers are bad. And for me, even actually where I still am in life, it's a luxury to be able to buy cards and not have to think about selling other cards. That's a luxury.
Especially now. I mean, look, think about the late 80s and 90s, what packs cost. I mean, even 89 Upper Deck, which was a luxury back then, was $3 a pack, $5 a pack, $6 a pack. Now, I'm preaching to the choir here. You got products here that are like, flawless, 8 cards, $1,500, right? Yeah. Before you even open the pack,
Not
you
even
have
that,
$200 on each of these cards.
Like, let's even take it micro, Mosaic blasters right now are $50 on the few sites that actually still carry them,
Yeah.
like a blaster of a mid-end product. So yes, I am sorry, person that loves 1991 Fleer, and that's not actually designed as a subtweet. I know there's an account out there that like loves 1991 Fleer. It's just that, the reason you have that account is because it is 1991 Fleer. But there's so many people out there that are play in the lower end of the hobby, because they're true collectors and they like that. It's almost like a badge of honor. And it's like, no, I'm sorry, but with 2 children, paying for the rent I pay in Los Angeles, making ends meet, yeah, I gotta make some money so I can go buy my PC cards. I have to, know. So it's like, to complain about people that sell and then say that they're not collectors. It's like, get over yourself. That's how I can engage in the hobby,
Yeah.
So basically I hate all forms of that. And so kind of a deviation from where we were, but what you touched on, I wish I was Steve Aoki and I could just plop down, and buy 100 Lucas or however many he showed on his Instagram some months ago. I know Josh Donaldson just did the same thing. Great. And I love that. I love that those guys are doing it too. It makes it really fun, but yeah, let's stop judging people for how they collect, and let's stop judging how they get into the hobby in the first place. Because this is the thing that I've seen. If my insight counts for anything, what I have seen with my following, with my engagement, with the fact that I spend more time on Twitter than I should as a full-time father and a full-time worker with a real life job, I have seen that regardless of how people get in the hobby, it's the hobby. So many people that were buying Project 2020 cards from me because they thought they would be a flip as things were still doing this are still there, still engaging, still buying their favorite quarterback, their favorite rookie, buying Allen and Ginter cards of the player, buying a box of Allen and Ginter or Goodwin Champions to explore an eclectic product. They didn't just disappear when Project 2020 stopped making money. It did ignite love. You cannot hold a card in your hand. Shouldn't make absolute statements. People can. That would have been such a good soundbite for you, but I just read that. I'm sorry. But most people, if they get a card in their hand and they enjoy sports in the least, they'll enjoy the collecting side too. Yeah. And then they do the buying and the flipping because if I can make money, I can justify this with my spouse. If I make money, then I can buy even more. Like very few people are just seeing dollar signs in this because it's really hard to just see dollar signs in it. That's part of why it is growing, I think, the way it is because it's fun.
Yeah.
You want to see what I've picked up? And here's the thing about the gatekeepers. I almost cursed. It gets me so riled up. So they talk all day long about like what you're posting, content, this, that. Well, all you care about is this. And then I post a PC pickup that blows my day that I absolutely freaking love. 1994 Skybox Blue Chips Neon Bordeaux Foil PSA 9, which is a Pop 2 and the highest of this card. There is no PSA 10. I post this, they go quiet. They don't retweet that. They don't say, oh, wow, that's fun. That's cool. That brings back my child. No, they don't. So when you say why is somebody negative about that, which is an issue we still haven't quite exactly addressed, why are they negative? Why are people negative? The negative people are just negative. Like if your true collector really cares about collecting, when I post my Diego Rossi base MLS Bowman card, retweet that. Or don't retweet it. I don't need the signal boost, but reply, say, oh, wow, that's cool. I'm glad you collect out of passion, Ivan.
Yeah.
I don't need you to retweet the Patrick Mahomes $7.5 million article or eBay link. I don't need that. That's fine. Yeah. I won't be offended that you won't do that. But don't say true collector and then not engage with other true collectors. Like, do we want to grow this hobby or not?
Yeah, I just did a show where I talked about this. You touched on something that I brought up. As people get mad when you sell something, it's almost like you can't sell something. You're a bad person. You're selling your cards. You're making money. Like that's the American way. Like that's not just the card industry. That's people sell sneakers. Beanie Babies. You go to people selling. Yeah.
Storage.
I got one. I haven't got it yet, but I ordered one of these things.
Yeah. So I ordered 7 of them. Very public. And I also believe that transparency is huge to the hobby.
Yeah.
it is tough. Manipulation is very possible. I actually think a hot take that I have is that Gary Vee does less manipulation than the hobby insiders have for years.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
People want to point to a scapegoat. They want to point to Gary Vee does that. He's posting De'Aaron Fox and that. And it's like, no, you don't understand. If you go into the hobby staples, that's where manipulation has happened for decades, and it continues to happen.
Well, they want to put a face. They want one person to be the villain.
The people that don't know better want one person to be the villain while turning a blind eye to what actually goes on behind the scenes. So I love the internet because it gives us so much more transparency. All that said, I bought 7, was transparent about it.
And for those listening, it's the Phoenix Fanatics factory set.
Fireburst exclusive to Fanatics factory set. And while I try to avoid giving advice, I also try to avoid, I try to give people a little bit of a hint. I am convinced that these will be profitable for people that bought them, or can be, or that there's ways to make them profitable, whether that's breaking it all up and grading the key cards and selling them individually, whether that's using COMC to sell as many of the base cards as possible. Basically, especially with a lot of the promo codes that they put out that you can find on Fanatics, you could get this set for 50 cents a card, 200 cards, $100. Use a discount plus pay sales tax, $100. If you cannot sell 50 of these cards for $2, you have a lot of learning to do in the hobby still. And 50 cards times $2 gets you your money back, and you have 150 cards in stock.
Let's be real. This year's rookie class is looking stellar, so all the more easier. Honest,
rookie class. Yeah. So with that, so little transparency there. I had all that, but you talk about people and things. So I had this idea. One person said, "Hey, could I buy all my team from that for $10?" So you do the quick math: $10 times 32 teams. I don't even need to pull out. That's $320. Well, don't forget 32 times 343 for shipping, but still profitable. So I'm like, hey, that might actually be really fun to do. So I did that. Listed, hey, I'll sell you your team for $10 shipped. And with my following, I still met 20 people that I did not know before that were interested in this. I got a tweet from Buck City Breaks, some good people. I think Group Breaks Checklist retweeted it. Awesome of them to do. And I looked at a few of these accounts, and multiple of them actually were prize hounds.
Yeah.
The kind of account that if the hobby purists or the Twitter purists who have this control and dictate who gets to be what and what people's opinions and lives are would say, well, no, they're not. They just want free stuff. And I sold 3 or 4 team lots to collectors that were prize hounds that paid via PayPal, everything protected, bubble mailer with tracking. They're engaged in the hobby. Maybe they don't present the same way you or I do. Maybe they don't want to have big, long conversations in public, but one of them bought the team that was in the region that I shipped to. They're a collector. They still like stuff, So how they got in, whether they got in because they saw a tweet from somebody and they didn't realize sports cards were still a thing and a giveaway treat went trending and they got in, they're in. They're growing the hobby. They're part of it. And they will come out of their shell. And I've got literally hundreds of stories like that with the fact that I have done so many giveaways over my time. Yeah. But there's real people behind a lot of accounts. Are there scumbags out there and are there freebie hounds out there? Yes. But far be it for me to judge or know until I've had time to get to know somebody.
Yep. And same thing with a lot of the giveaways we do, Ivan. I don't know the person's background all the time. Sometimes I do if it's someone I know that wins. But it's all random. It's retweet pick. It's an app that I paid $3 for a lifetime to use it. So, but it always, people just you're bad if you make money. You're bad if you give away stuff. You're bad. You can't. It's a lose-lose to certain people. And I normally will steer clear of that stuff. This one just really caught it. It was just freaky how I just ran into it, and I responded to it. It's out there. If someone can find it. And like I said, when I read it, I thought of these two shows. And I thought it was funny that I was going to be talking to you today. I'm like, I definitely want to get Ivan's, 2 cents on this, because it was really, it just, man, we're picking on, I don't even want to say picking on, we're complaining about people giving stuff free to people and promoting the hobby. Like, that's just crazy. I mean, radio stations give away CDs back in the day. Now everything's digital. But, promos and shirts and everyone gives something away as promo. And, like, why all of a sudden, because it's the hobby, we can't do that? Like,
well, and here's the other funny thing about that is, yes, so maybe it grew my following, so I was able to sell team sets more than somebody else. In the middle of the day yesterday, somebody tagged me in something, and I kid you not. So I had 2 team sets when I started this, and I sold enough to be probably about $140 profitable after the cost of those 2 team sets. Kid you not, somebody tagged me 130 yesterday in something, and I said, you know what, I do want that. Seller made a great price. I spent $110 on a lot of 40 cards yesterday. So, like, these profits that people are making, go back into building collections, go back into the hobby. It's asinine to me. Like, find something better to complain about.
We need to take another quick break, but we'll be back with Ivan Lovegren. Let me tell you about Iron Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA and now SGC submissions. They offer various service levels at the lowest prices around. They even provide the card savers your cards need to be submitted at no extra charge. Their elite status helps improve turnaround times, and their chat rooms keep you abreast of your subs and the status of your cards. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards. All one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you. We are back with more from Ivan Lovegren.
Again, my biggest complaint right now is the lack of transparency that continues to go on. Market manipulation, anonymous accounts. I've got a conversation pending with a pretty big cook group and bot person who asked my opinion on the hobby. And I'm like, look, it's not necessarily you, but it's the fact that your profile picture has no tracing of who you are. I don't know if you could be John for all I know. And John has incentive. He wants to sell this.
I gotta confess.
Yeah. Here you are with this old man act. We know that you're tech savvy. We know what you're up to.
I wish.
So it's like, that's a problem. People buying to profit is not, the reason it's not a problem is because it only works until it doesn't. The people buying to profit will learn hard lessons along the way. They won't always profit. Nothing just does this. We've seen that.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem. People buying up more stuff than they need to profit. That's not a problem because it corrects itself.
Yeah.
Problem is market manipulation. Problem is people being anonymous, people hiding identities, people creating accounts and then backing out of them. Topps wanting me to create a new account in order to get Montgomery Club because of their snafu. Only just a little salty. But,
Yeah, they sent me. I mean, I got a second email. I got locked out on the initial day where you shouldn't have, and then they sent me an email saying, "Sorry, now, go get it now." And I did.
Were you a renewer?
Yeah, but I was the second year, so this will be the third year. I got in the second year. So full disclosure, I wasn't part of the first year. So I'm.
That's fine. But did you see what happened today with it?
Yeah, I saw that.
So today was the public offering.
Yeah.
And I was not a member previously, but because I'm in tune with the hobby, when they posted and nobody knew the link wasn't supposed to be live for the public because it wasn't on the website, it was only in the app. So I had bought one 5 days ago when it was available. And I very publicly said, hey, if they do end up fixing it and refunding it, yeah, I'm fine with that. If that was what it was supposed to be, I don't mind. But then today, because I had done that and because they didn't update their info at all, they flagged me as owning an account or having purchased an account. So I wasn't able to buy at the public offering either.
So you lost, but you're saying you lost both?
Yeah. Now, people out there said, oh, all you have to do is create a new account. Like
Yeah.
if you create a new account, they'll let you. And I'm like, well, that I shouldn't.
Well, you
have
should
to
have
talk
got
to
one of
this.
you should have got one of them, Ivan. So let me tell you about my experience. So when
You
they sent
call
that
for the
second
phone?
email, when they sent that second email, I went to the site, and so I put in my credit card. I already had it on file from previous purchases. I hit purchase, and it spinned.
Mhm.
It spun, and it didn't say, thank you for your order like it usually does, or order confirmed. And so it spun, and I backed out, and I came in again, and I hit it again, same card, and it spun again. And so I'm like, maybe it's something wrong with this credit card. Maybe it's not going through because this credit card's something wrong. Not that it's maxed out, just it's not taking this card. So I backed out a third time, and I came back in, and I used another card. And this time it went through and said, purchase confirmed, thank you, got my loyalty points and all that. And so then I went later on, about an hour or two later, I went in there, and I noticed I was charged twice. Both of those credit cards were charged twice. So I, in a sense, had two Montgomery Club membership.
Nice. Can I buy one from you?
No, listen. So I'm like, what do I do? And so I actually didn't do nothing. And I know this is going to sound like a cop out. Something drew my attention away, and I actually forgot about it. And so then I said, I'm going to email Topps and tell them what happened. And I just need the one, right? You screwed up. You made it right. Let me come back and get it. And so I logged onto the website the following day and went to my orders. You can log in your account and you see orders. And where it had the two, one was gone. So they must have reversed one of the charges. I'll know. I should really call that 1-800 number. But where it was there, one of them was gone. The one is still there saying order process. It's processing till they ship something.
Well, I will pray for you, John, because that's probably what it will take to confirm that you were actually able to renew. So we'll see. Time will tell.
So, I mean, it's just a bet. I'm glad they tried to make it right. It sucks. Your situation sucks. I hope, man, I mean, it just seems like one thing after another with, customer service in 2020. I know the pandemic has left people short-staffed, but you gotta this is not Topps has been around a while. This is not like they're an upstart. Figure this stuff out. And I mean, how difficult is it to go to someone who had a membership and say, hey, do you want it? Yes or no? All right, can we charge the same card you paid for last year's to renew it? Right, yeah. We do that. They do that with other things. Hey, your year is up. We're on. Might as well just do an automatic renewal unless someone actually wants out. You could do it that way. I mean, this isn't it's just a bad look. And
it's interesting because it actually is a slight thing on the transparency side. I was arguing on the opposite side of this conversation for a bit way back May, I believe. Maybe I can't remember which product it was, but they had a product drop. And quite a few people that I was friends with were saying what trash it was. But I do have an understanding of what it costs to overhaul a complete website to actually prevent bots. It's like if Nike spent $900 million on their app, we know Topps doesn't have $900 million, right? Well, let's be frank. But then came the time when Topps is making $1 million a day in Project 2020 sales. Or 750,000 a day in Project 2020 sales in the middle of the pandemic. It's like, okay, maybe you should take some of that and push it into innovation. Maybe you should then start doing these things a little bit. But it's so interesting. I'm going to give you something. So, John, you know that I'm one of those guys that says never say invest in sports cards, right?
See, I do now. So we're on the opposite sides.
So here's why.
I won't. Let me just before I'll let you go. I say you can invest in sports. I don't say you have to. I say sports cards can be an investment if that's the direction you choose to go. But if you, like you mentioned earlier about being a true collector, if you're doing the hobby just because you like the Cubs and Chris Bryant's your favorite player, whatever, there's nothing wrong with that either. My argument is when someone says the hobby's not an investment, my argument is you see what these cards are going for, in these auction houses. You can't say, and I'm not even talking about the $3 or $4 million cards.
Here's the problem with the definition of investment, if that's what it is. You cannot define something as an investment after the fact. You can't say, well, look, they're returning well, so they're an investment. No, they had to be an investment before the fact, and they have to be an investment when they are not returning well as well. They're also an investment when they lose. And the reason that I am so sick of big companies calling cards investments, these big, chart companies and data companies and things of that nature, is they never talk about the losers. So remember, my day job is in investments. The most important service I provide my clients is I can explain to them when their portfolio is down, why. And the other thing, and it's funny because it's almost like a piece of fear. Like, the pick the chart company out there, because that's what I call them, they're content, whatever, media. Pick the chart company out there that has said, hey, look, Giannis is down 40%, go buy him. They don't, because they're scared to death that you're going to, and it's going to continue down because they don't have the confidence in cards as investments.
Yeah.
They know that the trends are cyclical and the trends are pushed by mouths and things of that nature. They know all the loopholes, and that's why they're not actually telling you true investment advice. They're not embracing losses because they came from a smart process. They know it's gambling. It's not investing. It's gambling.
It is gambling.
Speculating.
That I agree. Anytime you buy a box or a pack, you obviously have no idea what you're
even if buying a single, because the other argument I hear about that is, I don't buy packs. I just buy singles of guys I know are good. But here's the thing. The casinos don't shy away from losses at all because casinos have confidence. And so that's the lack of confidence in people to talk about losses or address that losses happen or address that products do go down or address when there's a downturn in the market. That lack of confidence is what tells me that you are a con man, not you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
It's if you are a website, if you're a marketplace and your entire MO is like, oh, look, invest in cards through our marketplace, and you don't address head on, look, Giannis is down 40%. Guess what that means if you're investing?
You lost.
Well, it means you lost, but we also actually think that means he's a good buy. Go out and buy him now. Nobody said that. Everybody was just like, well, look, Josh Allen is up now. It's like they just jump on.
That's the other thing.
Like, have the confidence to say, you lose. Or have the confidence to say, if you have a problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Casinos have that all over the place because they know they're not afraid that you're going to do that and stop playing. But everybody in the card industry is so afraid you're going to stop playing if you see something. And that fear itself is what makes people leave when one thing goes wrong. Like, let's just embrace it. Let's call it what it is. Let's engage with it. Let's own it. And let's continue to have fun in the hobby. That can allow us to have fun in the hobby and continue to be profitable.
No, I agree with you. And here's the thing. Just because a card or, a player cards in general go down, and that also doesn't mean it's a good buy. It might be just kind of the way it's going to be. He may not rebound. So that's always a chance. That's always the chance you take. That's the gamble. I get it. I may not be investing in it. I mean, my cards, if I sold everything that was around me in this room, it'd probably bring in a good chunk of change. Let's just put it that way. And so I think it's an investment in itself. I'm not doing it this isn't what I'm planning on retire on. That's what 401k and stocks and precious metals are to me as well. But this, I did a show with Hobby Quick Hits, the shorter show I do, where I talked about card mortality. Like, what is really, like, obviously I don't like to be morbid and think about it, but we're not going to live forever. What am I going to do with it? Is my son just going to take it, sell it, and enjoy the fruits of my labor, for lack of a better way of saying it? Do I set a date where, hey, if I live to 60, I'm going to just sell whatever whatever I still have at age 60, I'm just going to start moving it on whatever platforms I choose. And, if I live to 65, I have 5 years of money from them, if you will.
Was it just you on that, or did you talk with somebody else about it?
No, I did the show on Hobby Quick Hits, and Dr. Beckett actually, he listens to the shows, and I've gotten to know him. He's a great guy. Yeah, and he.
If you haven't shut me off already, Dr. Beckett.
He's really. I'm assuming you've met him and you know him.
No, I never have actually.
All right. I'm going to talk to him. We're going to have to change that. But so he actually emailed me. He said, John, it's hearing you do that show. I had been thinking about doing one of my podcasts about that. Would you come on with me and we both can piggybacking off what you already talked about? I wanted to ask you some and kind of, I'm older than you, so I wanted to give it even an older person's sort of perspective on that. And it came out real well. And he mentioned, sometimes we don't think about that all the time. We just kind of think like we're going to be around forever. And as we all know, that's not how it works. And so, and it's funny, I asked the question, Ivan, and I haven't answered my own question at age 47 right here and right now. I was around the fire. A month ago, my son's 20. We're around the fire pit one summer night earlier this year. And me and my son were smoking a cigar, and I kind of broached it with my son, Jordan. I'm like, Jordan, I have a lot of stuff. He's into cars, not in the same vein as I am. He doesn't know everything like I do. I'm like, what do you think? Like, what do you want them? I'm not going to be, some day's going to come. I'm not going to be here no more. And I think it really kind of creeped him out that I was talking about finality. He didn't really want to. He's like, come on, man, let's just talk about, the Mets or something else. And I could see he was cringing a little bit. And but at some point, you have to think about those things. I mean, God forbid, it could happen tomorrow to anybody. And obviously, I don't want that to happen to anybody. So, quick commercial, but we'll be back with more Ivan, and we'll finish this conversation about card mortality. Pastime Marketplace offers a line of durable graded card cases made for collectors who want high-quality graded card storage that is virtually indestructible. Their cases are waterproof, dustproof, airtight, and designed to protect your valuable collection. Check them all out at www.pastimemarketplace.com. Protect your best with the best. And remember to save 10% off your total order. Use the promo code SCN10. That's capital S, capital C, capital N, 10 for 10% off your total order at pastimemarketplace.com. Sports Card Nation is back with Ivan Lovegren as we continue the conversation about card mortality.
Again, my day job is in that. That's exactly what my day job is in, is how do we survive retirement and what happens after retirement? How does my family survive? All of that. And one thing I tell clients is, look, we talk about this for 20 minutes a year so that you can live the other 364 days, 23 hours, and 40 minutes without having to think about it. So I do encourage everybody listening, if it's 10 or 15 minutes, just sit down and think, what would I do? What do I want? Put it on paper. That way you don't have to worry about it. But it's very interesting. I'm also a big mindset guy, and what our subconsciouses nag us with, if we don't address it, we don't feel like it's nagging us, but it does eat away at us. It's stress. It causes our life to be shorter. Figure out some things, write them down, and you'll actually live a better life and possibly live a longer life. Studies have shown the people that plan things like this actually live longer. So Google those studies. I don't have the exact source of the site right now.
Well, I eat too many chicken wings, so that'll counterbalance.
But hey, I've known plenty of people that eat chicken wings and smoke cigars that live to be 90,
You look at George Byrne, right?
Yeah. Have you had Ryan Cracknell on the show?
No, he's on my list, and I know I spoke to him. I'm going to eventually. We'll have
I don't want to steal a content piece from him, but he actually has shared something with me that, a lot of true collectors also, or some collectors just don't buy into grading. And he's a bit of a purist too. Like, he's not super crazy on that, but we've had some talks, and he said, one reason why I value graded cards is because it can help my wife and my kids after I'm gone, because it does create a standardization, does create a way for them to understand outside the hobby what to do with that. So I've always really liked that. That's something that Ryan shared with me. That
it's a great point. It's true. It is true. Like I said on that mortality show I did, Ivan, like, God forbid, like something happens to me and I'm not here anymore. My wife does not know anything about cards. You could give her a Ken Griffey Jr. or a Jose Kendo, and they're almost the same thing to her. Luckily, my son is not knows a lot more, and so if that was the case, worst case scenario, he would sort of know what to do. My wife would not know anything, and so it's true. It is something you need to talk about, plan, even if it's just putting thoughts down and on paper or having that. I'm going to broach that subject again with Jordan and say, listen, I know you don't like to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it for 2 hours. We don't have to long draw it out necessarily. Let's just discuss, what we would do, or what do you want this stuff? If not, then, we know if something happens to me, you can sell it. Or if I lived, maybe I be a little inwardly selfish and say, listen, at 62, I'm going to move this stuff and I'll help you out and we'll go on a vacation or whatever. If you're married and have kids and depending, we'll all enjoy maybe some of the profits from it, but at least have some sort of direction, like you said, to, rather than just pretend we're all going to live, to infinity and I'll be collecting 2090 Topps cards,
I mean, here's the thing with it. I've actually helped a widow with her late husband's collection. So I've seen it firsthand. Yeah. And it's not entirely pretty. It's especially not pretty when you've got the price tags from 1999 on the cards and she's seeing what, because you bought them from an LCS and she's seeing the $80 you paid for a Ken Caminiti, SPX holograph that is now worth $6 if you can find a buyer. It's not pretty. That said, if you can create a system, at least have something in place. My wife knows who to reach out to, thanks to this community again, thanks to Hobby Twitter. My wife knows, hey, God forbid something happens to Ivan, aside from all of our other plans for the cards, call this person, pay for them to fly to LA because, it's the cost of one Fanatic set, right, for a plane ticket, and they'll be able to help you out and you can trust them. So it's not actually that hard. Just, it can be that easy. Just tell your wife, hey, if something happens, my friend John at Sports Card Nation, he'll come out and help you.
It's funny. It's my son really who doesn't want to think about dad not being around no more. But listen, I don't like to think about it either, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna rewrite history. So it's something that one day we'll hopefully soon. Obviously, we'll just kind of really kind of clear that air and just get some sort of vision of what we want to do. End game wise, we're hoping it's obviously later than a sooner thing, but you just don't know, and so you gotta.
But hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, no, I got that much.
Something one of the best financial planners I ever met. Hope is not a strategy. But it's really funny if you take 5 minutes, and I'm saying this for the listeners as much as for you, whether it's, hey, honey, if something happens to me, call up John Newman. He understands cards. It'll cost, a plane ticket and a couple $100 for his day, but he'll help you out, or call, whoever that you trust and let them know, hey, by the way, or if you have children like you, hey, son, do you want to take this on or do you want me to find somebody that could take it on? Exactly. Oh, I love cards. Great. Yeah, no, Dad, that would mean so much to me. Or, Dad, I enjoy cards with you, but I really don't want to go through I've seen your boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think for him, he just hears, death. Let's call it what it is. And he just thought, hey, let's talk about something else, kind of change the subject, pivot to something else. But at some point, I'm going to hold his feet to the fire here and then say, listen, the sooner we can do it, it'll be a quick conversation and we'll know what we're doing and we don't even have to talk about it necessarily anymore.
I cannot wait until I see this published and see the title, Giveaways and Death. That'll put them in their place, won't it?
Maybe
we're talking about giveaways and death. Is that going to fulfill you negative people out there enough?
It's funny. And it is what, going back to that negative stuff, it is what it is. I just choose really what I even responding today is something I usually don't do. I just kind of, drive around the hole in the middle of the road and then get back in the lane and continue driving. And so it just really struck a nerve. And, I responded to that. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Ivan. There is more. We talked a long time about some great topics. And so there's much more. I didn't want to make one giant episode. So like I said in the intro, part 2 of the conversation with Ivan will be next Friday, the 27th. And again, great conversation. And, I don't put any kind of restraints on my interviews, and they go as long as they go. So I hope you tune in next Friday as well for the conclusion of this great interview, great conversation more than interview with Ivan Lovegren from GoGTS Live. All right, excited to talk about one of our newer sponsors, Manscaped.com. Sent a kit over a couple weeks ago. I reviewed a couple of the products last week. Want to talk about a couple more of the products that I used this week. Their underwear. They sent over a pair of underwear. I tell you what, a comfortable pair of underwear, guys, know what I'm talking about, goes a long way, right? Anyone else there have weekend underwear, your favorite pair? Well, the ones they sent would qualify for weekend underwear. Very comfortable, comfortable underwear is important. I don't know, they're sort of compression, but they don't squeeze you, if you know what I mean. Kind of have a cottony feel, almost like a compression shorts without, that tight fit. I've worn them a few times over the last couple weeks, and very fond of them. Let's just say that. The other item I'm going to review today is their lawn mower 2.0, and it's a trimmer. It's to be used, in your nether regions and keep that all neat and tidy. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you've seen my ugly mug, I got a lot of facial hair. And so I tried this thing out. I said, man, let's see if it'll work upstairs as well as down. And it did. I've been trimming around my goatee and beard, and does great. It's smaller in size. The blade is smaller in size, and so you can really get those fine parts. And it's doubling right now as my facial hair trimmer, and I love it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if that was their original intent. I don't know if anyone else uses the lawnmower 2.0 in that fashion, but it works for me. So I guess you would call it, if this was baseball, it'd almost be the equivalent of a 5-2 player, right? Does everything. And so great products. We're going to review a few each week, all month as we go along. Check them out at manscaped.com. They have a full line of gentlemen's products for all your needs. I've only touched on a few of them. Go check them out. And if you want to save 20% off your total order, use the code SCN20. That's all caps, SCN20, and get 20% off your Manscaped order at manscaped.com. The sports world has lost another Hall of Famer and legend this week, November 13th. Paul Hornung of Green Bay Packers lore and Notre Dame has passed away. He was age 84. Some attributes. He was the first Heisman winner to be drafted number 1 overall. He won 5 titles in the NFL, including 1 Super Bowl. He's in both the college and pro football Hall of Fames. He was voted to 2 Pro Bowls, and he was the NFL MVP in 1961. Rest in peace, Paul Hornung. All right, that's going to bring episode 102 to a end. We hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank my guest today and my guest next week. I broke up the interview into 2 parts, so you heard the first half today, Mr. Ivan Lovegren, the one half of GoGTS Live Thursday nights. Check that show out. I try to as much as I can. A lot of times Thursday nights I'm kind of doing a lot of my editing to get this show out Friday. I don't catch every one. That's not for lack of wanting to. It's just availability. I hope you don't miss it because, I always say this. They give away a lot of great prizes too, just like we do. And I appreciate that. I think that's a wonderful thing to pay it forward in the hobby. Had a great conversation with Ivan. Even the stuff that didn't make the recording was great as well. And, really good guy, and happy he came aboard again. He's going to be back on episode 103. We're going to hear the second half of this interview. And so double dose of Ivan this week and then next week as well. Also, I want to say thanks to Chris McGill, House of Jordans, who is having me check out Card Ladder. And early on, I will tell you, I'm liking this analytic tool, if you will. And my general thoughts on analytic tools in the hobby. But this one is different. I'm gonna play around with it a little bit more before I give a full assessment. But we're gonna have him on too at some point, and we'll talk about that in more specifics. Why not talk with the guy, one of the guys who created it? And so we'll have him on. But I'm messing with that. You might hear me in future episodes refer to it a little bit here and there. And again, thanks to Chris McGill for letting us fool around with that. Be careful, who you give that power to. But I'm just kidding. But really good. Chris, a really good guy. When we talk about hobby good guys, Chris is right there at the top of that list. And so shout out to him and thank you to him. And hopefully soon you'll be hearing him talking with me on this very show. One other thing, speaking of shows and other shows, Hobby Hotline every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We go about an hour and a half. But we have a whole host of hosts. I'm not going to, name them. I think we got 10 or 12 that rotate. I'm only on once a month now on average, which is a good thing. But if you're listening to this show on release date tomorrow, Saturday, big show, Dr. James Beckett, Brian Gray, Leaf CEO, and Drew Herndon from Let Me Get That Autograph are your hosts for tomorrow's show if you're listening to this on the day it drops. Okay, so don't miss that. I'm not even on that show. I'm definitely going to be watching. And Hobby Hotline, since if you want to call it, people are referring to it as Hobby Hotline 2.0. I appreciate everyone that was involved in that show, past and current. I like to give credit where credit's due. But I will say this group of folks have made doing that show a lot of fun. A lot of people getting their hands dirty and making that show even better. The callers themselves, the hosts themselves. That's fun. I tell you, whenever I do that, that's the quickest hour ever, and it seems like it's a blur and it's over, and it's really starting to gain some traction. We appreciate it. So if you're listening and you were involved in the show, and maybe you're not anymore, thank you just the same. If you're part of the current edition, definite hats off. Thank you for allowing us to put that show together. It's been tremendous. There's some big things on the horizon there that we can't talk about always, but that show is definitely trending well. We've got it back up on the audio platform, so if you don't catch it live, you can catch the audio platforms. Dr. Beckett will be on once a month. Mr. Brian Gray from Leaf will be on once a month, and all the great hosts as well. So, all kind of working together. So that's become a real fun thing to do. And again, we're looking forward to growing that show as we progress and move along. So again, thank you to Ivan coming on the show. Be good to each other. We got a lot of negative stuff going on in the hobby. A lot of finger pointing, name calling, labeling. it is what it is. Maybe people are grumpy with the pandemic, whatever the case may be. But don't let it get you down. Steer around that stuff in the road. Don't stop and look at it. Just drive by and enjoy the hobby as best you can. We'll see you here next week for episode 103 with none other than Ivan Lovegren again as we continue the interview. That's a continuation of part 1 today. So we'll see you in a week. Be good, be safe, be well. Take care.
Sports Card Nation.
You gotta fight for your right
To hobby.